Good morning, Wall Street winners. It is Monday, December 9th, and it's a bit of a slow week in terms of news and earnings and headlines this week, but there is always an opportunity to make money even when it's a slow week. Let's start with a look at where we are in the Bloomberg markets and specifically the futures. You can see here that the Dow is up slightly, the S&P is off 2 points, and the NASDAQ is off 36, 37 points. So they're fluttering around even for the most part based upon those numbers. I think we may see a little bit of retraction on the NASDAQ, which had a pretty positive week last week, and we may see a bit of a climb on the Dow. So let's drill into that a little bit and start this day off on the 9th with a look at earnings for the week. So today, after market, we have Oracle, and I think Oracle is set to have some fantastic earnings and a good future forecast. So we'll see what that does for that stock. We also have MongoDB. I think MongoDB is also well positioned to have great earnings, great revenue, and a strong future forecast. Then we have AutoZone tomorrow. I'm not really sure about AutoZone. I don't follow AutoZone very closely. It's just one of those retailers that I have in my list, but not my tracking and following list. The one I'm most interested in, or two really, are Wednesday and Thursday. Wednesday being Adobe. I'm definitely an Adobe fan, Adobe user, Adobe owner, and I believe Adobe is going to finally get past that 550 mark that it's at now and maybe try to, if not get into the 600s. I think it'll get very close to the 600s after earnings are, if they come out and they're positive, as well as revenue and future forecasts, and they have an AI story. The key here is going to be the AI story, which has been missing from Adobe this year. And what we saw was something similar with CRM, where that story was also really not highlighted. And I'm going to say it was missing for the first couple of quarters. But then in this last quarter, that just shot up like a rocket when they started to talk about AI and an AI agent. So we'll have to wait and see if that whole concept of an AI agent comes into play with Adobe. And if it does, I think it's going to take off as well. Then we have Broadcom, so another chip maker, and this is going to be an important one. We've had some fairly good, actually excellent in most cases, earnings results from the chip makers. So we'll see what Broadcom comes out with. And then Costco as well. So after market Thursday, I expect Costco is going to have some fabulous earnings and revenue and an incredible future forecast as we're now heading through and into and through the holiday season. And then finally, next week, we've got Micron. That's the last one with Nike that I'm really looking forward to seeing before Christmas. And then things are going to wind down effectively. But we're seeing a lot of reshuffling right now within various accounts and funds within the market for rebalancing of year end. So if we take a look at the top of the Yahoo Finance app, there you can see the indices and how they closed on Friday. Crude oil is up today. So there's been this upheaval and change in leadership in Syria, and that introduces a fairly uncertain environment and the potential for more conflict. So I think that's what's sending this up in price. And if we can see that continue to rise and get back into the low 70s, maybe even as high as 72 before the end of this year, then I think we're going to see oil stocks rebound as we go into the end of the year. So that's what I'm going to be watching. And if I do see crude continuing to move up, then I may increase some positions in those oil refining stocks, which we'll have a look at in a second. And then finally, you can see the VIX. The VIX is still down below 14, which is a good sign from a volatility perspective. But the interesting thing about the VIX and the volatility index is it's sometimes the last to move. So it often only moves when some piece or article of news or something in the media comes out and causes a massive buy-in or a massive sell-off. So the VIX it's important to see the underlying sentiment, but it's definitely not a predictor of the future and where things are headed. So bear in mind that aspect with the VIX. If we look down at the screen, we've got Costco had a great week last week, up almost at $1,000 from 890s about within the last couple of weeks. Lulu had a phenomenal week. Lulu was in the low 300s, and it's now up near $400. It gained $55 on Friday. That is a huge move for that stock, especially based on the earnings, because they were good, but they weren't that good to justify that kind of a move, in my opinion. But that's where we are as we head into the holiday season with Lulu and Costco. We've got Dollar General, which was up. We've got Walmart, which is closing in on $100. Couche-Tard, which is up in the 81, 82 range. Home Depot had a good day Friday, and then Nike also a good day, and looks like it's up in the pre-market as it heads into earnings 2 weeks out. Healthcare just kind of stagnant and flat, probably waiting for something with the change in the administration to see the direction of Medicare in the US and what's going to happen in that whole healthcare sector. Then we get down into the oil refining stocks. And one of the stocks I mentioned in a short last week was Con Ed, and it was in the 96 range. And I said it was an attractive buy as it was in that range. Maybe wait a little longer, maybe buy it then. But I believe that Con Ed is a stock that will get back to 105, 106. And I think that in the low 90s, I mean, it could go lower based on history here, but I think we're probably looking at a bottom somewhere in this range here. So we're pretty close to that bottom, in my opinion. And if you're looking for something to buy and hold for, let's say, 6 to 12 months and get a great dividend as well as some capital appreciation, I think you'll get that with Con Ed. I don't think it'll take a full 12 months. It certainly would if you want the full dividend. But for the capital appreciation, I think you'll see that happen sooner than 12 months. Then we scroll down further. You can see Chevron's up $1. Valero is up $1.31 in the pre-market. Obviously, all of this subject to change. But Valero at 131, to me, is an absolute bargain. If you drill into Valero here and take a look at the financials, it's trading at 12 times, 11 and a half times earnings. It has a dividend of 3.25%. It's going to be paid out in the new year, a couple months in. I think it's in February. And then we've got earnings end of January. It is a super attractively priced stock, in my opinion, and something that if you look at year to date, it is definitely near its all-time lows for the year. And yes, oil is down from where it was at the beginning of the year, but not the same percentage as Valero is down from its highs up in the mid 180s. So I think there's a high likelihood that this starts to turn, and all of these stocks start to turn and add some, start to grow in value and allow for some capital appreciation. If we take a look at crude for a second and look at year to date, you can see that when crude was up, when Valero was up, it was up in February. Crude was peaking in April and then getting close to that peak again in the June-July time period. And it is now down near its low for the year, but not that much off where it started at the beginning of the year, that then started to take off again. And we may see another cycle like that as we close out this year and get into 2025. So we'll have to keep an eye on that, but that is what I'm looking for. We go down to tech, and the one stock that's taken off this morning is Reddit. I believe Morgan Stanley came out with an analyst who is now supporting and advocating for Reddit in terms of their buy recommendation or their oversized position in Reddit, or simply oversized recommendation, overweight recommendation in Reddit. So that's catching a bit of an uptick here. I'm not a huge fan of Reddit based on its size and its in comparison to some of the other social media companies, but it seems to be doing well. Certainly IPO'd and has done well since the IPO. You can see CRM there off very slightly this morning in the pre-market. net up at 112. That's made an incredible move from the low 100s, high 90s in the last month. Microsoft hitting the 445. We called that earlier, I think, well, let's call it mid-November, saying that I thought that Microsoft would get to 445 before the end of the year, and we're pretty much there. Scrolling down further, Shopify has had an incredible year. If you look at Shopify year to date, this thing has gone up 62.5%. Most of it actually towards the end of the year. So it's really rocketed up since the October-November timeframe. So that's been doing very well. You've got IBM, which is pretty stable in that tech space. It's climbed up from the high 100s up into, call it the high 230s, 240s. Lam Research, it looks like it's making a bit of a comeback there, or did on Friday. Workday today is blowing it out of the water. So again, Workday had a sell-off after its last earnings report in the last couple of weeks and took a dive, and now it looks like it's recovering. So there's nothing wrong with the earnings. They just, for whatever reason, the stock dropped after meeting or exceeding earnings and revenue, maybe missing a bit on future forecast, or just saying that it was in line with what they had predicted originally and not increasing it. But it looks like it's now back in favor after that initial decline. So that's where you want to look after earnings. If a stock releases good earnings and good revenue and falls, then watch where it kind of finds a bottom there after the fall. It may not find a bottom on the first day. It could be a second or third, maybe fourth, fifth day before it finds a bottom. And it's not about timing the bottom perfectly. It's just about trying to get in at the right value for you and then waiting it out. And in this case, you would have waited it out. Well, let's look at the 1 month chart. So you would have waited it out, let's call it from November 26th or 27th through to, well, you could have probably sold back here on December 4th, and then it's going to be up again today on December 9th. So not a very long period of time for that stock to recover, and that would be more of a swing trade that you would get into. Then we scroll down further, and if we take a look at Baba is moving today in the pre-market, and not sure why Alibaba is moving there, but that's a big jump for Alibaba. So, oh, actually, I do know why. I think it's because their original founder probably had I believe he spoke for the first time, Jack Ma. Yeah, Jack Ma made a rare speech at Ant Group's 20th anniversary and predicts an AI-driven future. So just that speech alone moved that stock 6%. So that is an interesting bump there. NVIDIA off a bit Friday and a bit today, still a super solid stock for the long term. Google's making a comeback and up at 176. I think I'm confident this stock will get to 185 in the next 2 weeks, and or before the end of the year, which is basically the next 2 weeks with the number of trading days and the amount of volume that happens. And then I think Adobe as well. With earnings coming out this week, I believe this stock is going to get close to, if not above 600 and start to regain some of the ground it's lost. It has not had a great year. If you look at it year to date, I mean, it's been down as low as 439. That would have been a great opportunity to buy in, obviously, but it's bounced around. It's been up here as high as your 630s. I think it has the ability to get back to that 630 mark within the next couple of months. Going back down to financials just to close things out for the day, and we've got SoFi was up on Friday, off a little bit today. If SoFi drops, this seems to be the range it's moving in, 30 to 40 cents a day. I would be buying it on the dip and then selling it on the pop and just taking that spread out as a small percentage gain. And then there's the big guys, Goldman, Morgan Stanley, JP Morgan. In my opinion, all overpriced right now. I'm waiting till earnings come out in the new year. I think they're going to fall before earnings. I may consider buying them depending on how much they fall. I do think earnings will be good. I don't think they're good enough to justify a continued jump from this price point. So I'm staying away from those. And that's where we are today. So good luck with your trades. If you're liking these videos, please hit the like and subscribe button.